Hello guys, and welcome to our Saturday stream. We're going to be continuing to work on our dragon today. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We're kind of past, I think, the hardest part of this thing. Just kind of getting past that blocking out phase, making sure that all of our proportions are in the correct place. And then in our last stream, we also decided how we're going to start curving this body and getting it into some kind of like base bust or like chest piece-esque bust style piece down here. So we'll be playing with that shape a little bit more later, but I want to start by blending some more of the stuff that we just Dynameshed together and working on this neck, which it'll be a lot of fun to do some of these skin folds and all that good stuff. Right now we're pretty symmetrical through here, so we'll be doing some stuff to break that up a lot more. And probably for the rest of this. And eventually we'll get to a point where we're not going to probably remesh this anymore, so that we can close the mouth and get the look to be a little bit closer to what we're seeing there. And that's one of the main reasons that we remeshed this, so that we could come through here, make a decent selection, and then eventually close that mouth back up. We're gonna wait to do that though. We'll have to move, obviously, the eye and everything else around with that. But let's start up here. Start with blending our fins that we just merged in. But as always, feel free to ask any questions along the way. And let me see here real quick. Alright. Cool. Yeah. Alright. So let's start up here, grab some clay tubers, and just to make this a little bit easier so it's not quite as laggy, we're going to work on just one area. So I'm going to select that area here in just a minute. This this curve feels a little awkward to me, so I'd like to get that to be a little bit closer to what I'm seeing up there. So more of a flat instead of this extra convexity that we're getting there. And it's being a little weird. Be a little careful with our selection here. Mask lasso is great for making quick selections like that. And then I'm thinking, as we start to blend that a little bit more, that won't be quite as rough. Towards the back of the neck, are we okay with this curve? Doesn't look terrible to me. I'll leave it for now. But yeah, let's get up here. And again, if you're experiencing any lag or you have something that's really high poly or just super complicated, a lot of the time, just select that one area you want to work on. Let's make sure we got all that set up. Maybe grab a little bit more this direction. It just makes it a little bit more easy for you. So when I'm blending something like this, well, for this shape it's a little bit different, but a little bit of trim dynamic, holding Alt, getting that positive stroke in between the cracks can help you bevel some of that out. Because if you just start smoothing through a shape like this, the way that ZBrush will smooth that shape, I don't know how well you guys can see that, but it's taking this crease here, and as I start to smooth that, it's essentially taking a sharp edge, so you have a sharp edge, and instead it's just pushing that in and beveling that edge in even more, and you end up with this really awkward turn in the surface, which is why, initially at least, for something like this, I'll blend it with a little bit of trim at first. For these fins, as it comes back to like this fin area, I don't know exactly how we'll do that. I'll probably keep that a little bit tighter through there and blend a little bit more down through this portion here. Whoops. And probably try to carry some of that shape through to the top of the head here. And just make sure that we're not losing a lot of that thickness. So we'll probably overdo this a little here. But yes, for those that are new or just joining us and have not seen our Dragoon so far, or if you want to check out some of the beginning processes, you can check that out over on my YouTube channel. There's a link somewhere down below where you can check out those other 2 videos. Started from a sphere and just started blocking out stuff really quick. Nothing super complicated. I like to start from a sphere for a lot of stuff. If I'm doing something that's actually under like time constraints, you know, a lot of the time I will start from a base, just because time is very important. What the hell is that hole? I just noticed that. I'm gonna have to close that off. So these are like the little things that I want to avoid. This is why I'm not closing the mouth yet. Let's see here. It's a little weird. But what was I saying? Yeah, when I'm working on something for work, or you know, doing something that's under time constraints, I'll pretty much, you know, you should try to get that stuff done as quick as possible. But when you're doing stuff for yourself, like I am with this dragon, and we're just kind of having fun, I like to do stuff from scratch a lot of the time, because I don't know, I personally get a lot more practice out of doing everything from scratch. I think the earlier stages of sculpting are kind of more difficult. Once you really get down those, once you really get down your silhouette and your primary and secondary shapes, like, it's kind of, in my opinion, it's kind of downhill from there. Like, really, at least for stylized stuff, the primary forms are, like, just everything. Primary forms, your silhouette, making sure that it looks and feels exactly the same as what we're going off of here for the 2D. That's the hard stuff. That's like where all my concentration goes. But once we get past that, like when I'm trying to blend some of this stuff and work on this, like this isn't, I wouldn't say it's mindless work, but it's definitely not as mentally taxing as some of the other stuff in the beginning. So if you're looking to work on a project for practice, I recommend doing it all from scratch. I'd say in general, you know, always with every project, at least this is something I try to do, always try to have a goal in mind. On our last few style studies, the entire purpose of doing those was to attempt to get inside the head of a few different 2D artists and kind of figure out how they make their faces and see if we can replicate that in a relatively short amount of time. Some of those we spent probably a little bit more time on than I would have wanted to, but that's okay. For something like this, I haven't done a creature sculpt in a while, so I wanted to dip my toes back in there. I've been doing a lot of human characters lately. A lot of super clean, hyper stylized stuff. Not that this isn't, you know, stylized to some degree. It's kind of just how I sculpt, but and what I like to sculpt. But I don't know, haven't done a creature in a while, so this is scratching that itch for me. Trying to get that to blend a little bit nicer through there. Get a nice internal silhouette. Stuff like this where this pinching is happening in there, that's totally okay. We'll Dynamesh that out and won't think about it twice. And there is some slight asymmetry here just because of the way this was remeshed, so kind of freaking out a little bit. It's not too terrible though. The weekend streams are always, I feel like, the most chill. No rush. Just kind of hang out. Get as much done on this as we can. I'm digging them. I'm liking the decision to flow that back into some kind of stand down there. We'll have to play with that a lot more. Let's try to get up in here, up in our neck. Start doing some stuff. Start turning this surface a little bit more. It's a little bit tough to get in here, so let's make a quick selection. And there's the asymmetry actually kind of screwing us up already. So let's probably undo all that and not even worry about sculpting symmetrically. Let's just go straight into asymmetry here. It's gonna be pretty tough to clean this up with symmetry on, just because little things could be off, and that's no good. For stuff like the move brush, it's totally fine, because as long as it gets like a general grab on the surface over on the other side, it'll be roughly the same. But I don't know, it's probably best that we start breaking this up now, isn't it? Try to get away from all this here. So I don't know, let's start really breaking up our surface a lot more. I'm not really liking this internal silhouette shape we're getting here, where it comes to a point and then swoops down right through here. I'm not a huge fan of that, so I'd like to round that out. It's just being a little doofy through here. Gonna fix that. I guess there technically would be some kind of pinching maybe happening in here as you like crease your neck. We'll also have to figure out what we want to do for this like hardened scale back here. I'm thinking we might want to take it a little bit further than just a few like lines in our surface. If we can maybe get some kind of tiling effect, I think that would be really cool. I don't know. Right now that feels very, very undefined to me in the concept. So if we can improve upon that, that would be awesome. So I really like this sharp soft edge brush that I have for starting to block out the flow of... I actually don't just use this on skin, I use it on a lot of stuff if I'm just trying to block out something. So like if I want a crease here, I might start to build up an edge so that I can start figuring out how I want that surface to turn there. Not that I'm necessarily doing that here, but just as an example. This brush is essentially just a damn standard brush that's a lot softer and has a different alpha applied to it. You could probably modify your own damn standard brush to get it pretty similar to this. I'll use this on hair and all sorts of stuff, but it's just a little bit nicer for folds and for skin, for starting to get that flow that you want. I think the damn standard brush is great, but the kind of point that you get is really, I don't know, it's really tight, I guess, is the way I would describe it. It's very sharp, whereas with this, you know, not quite as much, a little bit softer. Alright, let's kind of carry some of this more up towards the top, make sure we're feeling okay up through here. And let's start to break sim up here as well. And I'm starting fairly, not incredibly rough, but fairly rough here with my clay tubes brush. Kind of knocking some of this back, which is fine. We just want to get these basic shapes first. I always try to think of what I'm sculpting in kind of those basic stages of primary, secondary, tertiary. And if that means, you know, if I want to now break symmetry on these folds through the neck so it doesn't feel exactly the same when we're looking straight down through here. And then if that means taking it back to like a stage or two ago, I don't know. In my opinion, it's totally worth it to just do that real quick. I tend not to think about that stuff too much. Just like, get it done, let's go. I used to get in situations where I'd be like, but I spent all this time doing this work and I feel like now I'm gonna erase it. It's like, anymore I'm just like, nah, just do it. I don't know. I feel like you shouldn't get really too attached to your work. If there's something you can do to improve it, but that involves like maybe going backwards a little bit, I would say it's pretty much always worth it. Of course, unless you're under some kind of ridiculous, like, time constraint or something like that for work. In that case, maybe not so much. I need to figure out exactly what I'm gonna do down here. This shape is pretty messy right now. Oh crap. Accidentally hit Shift F on my keyboard, which is the expose hotkey. I should really change that. There's a lot of, like, Shift R is render by default. I ended up changing that because I used to click it on accident all the time while navigating very quickly, trying to do quick, like, little switches between my transpose tool and stuff. Just got annoying. I think for the most part this top surface is going to be pretty clean, so I probably don't want to be too crazy with the clay tubes built up here. I probably want to flatten a lot of that out. Or we might even make the scales a secondary subtool, so maybe it doesn't matter too much. We could maybe play around with the scale shape real quick, just to figure out what works. Let's see here. There's a lot of different ways we could do scales. We could just sculpt it directly on the surface, but I would prefer to try making something separate real quick. So let's try that real fast here. How do we want to do this? I was thinking about just slicing up the shape to cut it out. Either that, or I have another idea where we could make a separate mesh, and then there's a setting that you can do with insert meshes that will match the surface curve. That's pretty cool. That's another option. I was thinking, initially at least, something like this. It's a slow slice. We might be restarting ZBrush here shortly. And that's like our basic plane there. And then from there, just remesh this edge or this flat plane and then extrude it. Let's see. Did a pretty crappy remesh. Let's try Edgeloop group loops. With just the default settings. Alright, and now let's try one more Z remesh, keep groups on. So this is one idea I had, where we could make some separate meshes and then have the ability to control them a little bit more and then layer them up and start to make scales that way. And obviously from here, just start tiling that and getting that overlaying effect on that bottom edge so that they look kind of like tiles where they're stacked one on top of each other. So that's one option. I don't know if I don't really like the shape right now. So that's partially why I'm not enjoying that, but let's maybe try a different method here. So I have an idea for, I got something in my contact and it hurts really bad. So I have another idea. I mentioned that there is a way that you can take an insert mesh and essentially have that match the surface depending on the topology. So let's try using a cube and making a quick scale shape here. And we don't have to make this super complicated. And probably making it less complicated is even better, so that we have a lot of room for variation. And there might even be some insert multi-mesh scale brushes out there. I don't think by default there are any in ZBrush. We might be able to find something though. I kind of prefer making my own stuff for this though. Why, that was weird. Definitely want to get rid of that crease there. Alright, so let's just say something like this. Oh my gosh. My eye's gonna fall out. And just so we can at least demonstrate this technique, and maybe we can change this afterwards, but let's go here. Zio Carlos, thank you for the follow, man. I appreciate it. Let's create an insert mesh, new, and then in brush we want, let's see, I think it's under modifiers maybe, projection strength 100, and then then let's go back up here. And by drawing that out, it's being a little weird, but it is starting to match that surface curve. So let's try it on this instead. On our Dragon Boy here. There we go. It's starting to work. So that is another option for us. Let's turn off solo. And then just repeat this process down the curve of the back. And then we can modify these however we want. I think complicating the shape would be a good idea if we were going to do it this way. I feel like we're not going to get that to match perfectly though, which is why I was thinking that cutting off these basic shapes here would be a better idea. Here, let's do this. I think it's just going to be easier to do this. Hip Hop Bebop, thank you for the follow and welcome to the stream. Good morning, Doug. What's going on, dude? Alright, so let's select everything that we're going to want for this slice. So coming down here, we're going to get rid of all of this. And I don't know if I'm going to carry the scales forward or not onto the actual flat of the head. So let's leave that as an option. I don't know about this surface down here either, as this tapers. Probably not. So let's just get a good slice there. Delete all the things. Alright. So now the idea is from this mesh, well actually let's clean it up a little bit more. From this mesh we will create our scales by mainly using our slice brush. Need to clean some of this up. Hello, Fernando. Thank you for the follow. Welcome. Welcome to our Saturday Dragon stream. Oh boy. Alright. I am going to use some quick masks here to delete some of this garbage. And then we'll get to cutting up our scales. This mask down here does not have to be perfect by any means. Alright. then I think I'll just, let's see. I'll probably pull the scales more towards the middle here. Maybe I'll just leave it for now. Side effects, what's up, dude? Hip Hop Bebop and everybody else, how you guys doing? Alright. I'm not sure if you're talking about me not being on the Pixelogic channel. I only stream on the Pixelogic ZBrush channel on Tuesdays. Alright, so the basic idea here is to use our slice curve brush to now create our general shape here for each scale. And I don't know, from there we'll just kind of play it by ear. I'm surprised those slices are taking so long. It really shouldn't be. Let's see. Turn off line. So you guys can see that shape. Also, I'm making sure that perspective is off, because if I cut through the surface with perspective, it'll project over to the other side and be at the incorrect angle. Because there's that offset there. They're kind of flowing some of this scaling into some of the fleshy. I mean, these are just, it's not even scales, that's how I'm interpreting it. It's just a line on the surface, so I don't know, we have to interpret that however we can. I'm interpreting it as scales. I think it'll be fun to make some scales for this dude, so let's try it out. I'm just trying to make some more unique shapes. We will probably, I'll probably like adjust these after the fact. Just so we got some decent curves going on. Try to carry these all the way down. And then, would that center point be split? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. We'll play with that. Let's just get some more basic shapes here. I'm trying to match a little bit of some of that curve that's going on there. I don't really like that. Is this a unique thing to Cintiq, maybe? A few bright spots of sunlight sneaking through the shades to make you squint a little? It's unique to my 3 windows here. It's always at the exact time that I stream. Doesn't matter. I don't think there's there's actually quite a bit. It just depends. Like, there's one, I can see in the reflection right on my forehead here. It's always fun. I used to have blackout curtains, or blinds, or whatever you call them. Yeah, blackout curtains. But, it was just really dark in here all the time then. Very dreary. So I decided to shelve those. You can create an egg from a sphere now. That's great. Congrats. I don't know if I can do that. Why were you creating an egg from a sphere? I do not have dynamic on. I don't believe so. No. That's the first thing I always check when I'm getting some awkward slowdown there. But no, we do not. So there's some of our quick cut up for our scales. Again, we'll probably be changing these shapes a lot, pulling some stuff around. Up through here, I don't know, we're gonna have to get rid of a lot of that center geo as well. I might as well do some like just really quick shapes through here. I don't think it's gonna hurt anything. Alright. So we got all of those, great. Now we're going to be splitting these off to extract them and make them actual scales. A Wacom CTF 420, I'm not familiar with that one. Probably one of their older tablets though, based on the naming convention. Alright, so let's start splitting these off. Now I could just do a group split on these. I'm not a huge fan of doing that though, because you end up getting these all out of order and ZBrush just throws it in whatever order it deems is appropriate. So I'll try to do these splits quick here. Also, group split isn't always the nicest operation in the world. You can get some untimely crashes. I don't really know if there's such thing as a timely crash, but you can get some nasty crashes. So I will do this the old-fashioned way. Luckily there's not too many of these. Alright, now we got those all split off, so those will be easy to manipulate here. Let's start back here on this one, just so that we can get the process down. I'm actually going to only work on one side at a time, and then I'll mirror it over. I think it'll be easier. Alright, so we got our basic shape here. Pretty interesting shape for a scale. I like it. So let's try extracting some geo from this, making it a little bit more simplified topologically. See how this goes. Try to run an extraction and go from there. Try a few different quick options here. There we go. So I ran a group loops with polish on. It's just the default settings. That helps clean up that jagged edge so that it remeshed a little bit nicer for us. And then from there we can do a Zmodeler extrude all polygons. Just pull up on that surface a little bit. And that try over here is freaking out a bit. Delete that. It's fine. So there's still some pretty crappy stuff going on here, it looks like. I can actually do a little trick here. Zmodeler, delete a single poly, stitch, vert, stitch those together, and where's that other try? Delete, stitch, That did not do the correct stitch, did it? I'll leave that one as a try. I'm not that big of a stickler on tries, and that's not causing any inclusion issues. So I think that's good. Let's make sure our normals are facing the correct direction, which they are. And from here, let's get one more just so we can figure out how those are going to tile together. So top edge is always going to tuck up under the tile above it. So let's try the exact same operation down here on this piece. And I think this will work out. Oh, I need to trim that edge. That's my fault. Although it didn't do a bad job. So here. '05. So yes, that is an older one for sure. Kira, what up? Alright. This is some fun stretching going on over here. Still a nice quad though. And I will be probably just straight up creasing these top edges. Let's see. Crease tolerance 180. I think that'll work. And then maybe creasing some corners to make that flow along that edge really nicely as well. We'll do a manual crease singular edge here for that. And then we can line that up with this edge nicely. Yeah, I'm liking that. And then once I start to get these more lined up, what we'll start to do is just a quick rough example, the rotation there, and kind of just start to layer these a little bit nicer as we start to do that. And that's a little quick example, but we'll clean that up. And I won't add any subdivs to these yet in case we want to modify the topology. And now we just got to repeat this process a few more times. Well, more than a few, but not too hard. Plus from here, if we want to modify these shapes anymore, it's not, you know, incredibly complicated. And then I'll just mirror those over to the other side once we're done and keep going. Let's see, we got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 of these. So we'll keep going here on a few more. I think he's shaping up pretty quick though, up in the face region. We haven't touched that in a little bit. We'll be doing some more work over there though. Don't you worry. Let's get back to our group loops though. And just a quick 0.1 ZBrush. Clean up the surface. I need to make sure I have symmetry on. I do. Alright. And we'll extrude that up. So, starting to get some more interesting shapes here. I'm digging that. This top edge for that one doesn't really matter, since of course these are gonna like tile over top of all those. And I think we'll probably do some like inflation or something here to play with this shape a little bit more. Let's get this basic shape first. And that inflation will just make sure that all of these are fitting nicely together. And this is what I'm talking about for this hard edge here. Getting that to line up might be a little bit tricky. Let's kind of do it manually with our move brush. Kind of like armor. I feel like this shape is going to be one of the harder ones to extract properly, so let's try this one next. Just because this is a more complicated shape, it might have some more trouble around some of these areas. Around this curve here. I don't know. Sometimes ZBrush surprises me. And sometimes it does that. So that's great. Let's see here. Just adding a few slices to the surface to make ZBrush not be quite as dumb. Switch up the topology. See what it does this time. Nope. Alright, let's grab our ZBrush guide brush here. What are you doing? Why are you connecting down here? So ZBrush guides is about it's about as efficient as using poly groups. It kind of depends on the shape though. I've had variations of success with it with other brushes. There we go. It's being really weird right now though. Let's try this instead. Trying to just get it to stay connected here. It's acting very, very weird. It's cutting that off for some reason. Try this again. I think there were maybe too many poly groups there. I think the default group loops function has like four different loops, so it's probably freaking out a little bit. Let's try this. I think this will be workable. Alright, there we go. Like I said, I think this will be the hardest one. The rest of these should be extremely simple. So just starting to get some of that layering effect through there. Like I said, I will, let's see here. So merge down on a few of these just so we can see how this will work later once we get to this stage. Just start adding some thickness to that and then playing around with surface texture. We'll do all that later though. We should mirror and weld over to the other side, merge back down. Beautiful. All right. And then, I don't know, how, I don't know if I want to continue that shape too far onto the top of the head. I think we could like blend this in later on, like Dynamesh it in and play with it from there. I feel like some of these maybe, as we carry them forward more, it might just get a little unnecessary. Let's at least carry it up to the little front part of that fin. Might as well. That's nice. I guess those extractions are slightly different. I thought they were the same. It's okay. So group loops to help polish the edges, just to keep that from being quite as jagged. Then Z-remesher. I am also polygrouping everything really quick, just to make sure it's all one polygroup. And then Z-remesh at 0.1 is doing a decent job here at giving us the topology that we want. Did I delete that? Okay. Thought I misclicked. So of course it's not incredibly clean. You can see there's a star and then the surface turn here flowing into that. Very awkward, but it gets the job done, and really quick as well, which is which is what we like. Quick and relatively easy. And then we will, the more I look at this edge down here on the side, the more I'm like, yeah, we should eventually kind of merge those down and get that feeling like it's flowing into the flesh a little bit better. Because having these flow up over the surface and have the F's, we'll probably use some move with backface masking to like pull that bottom edge down. I think that'll help a lot. I'm liking the shapes that we're starting to get here, though. These interactions. Once we start blending through here, so let me show you what I mean by move backface. Grab your move brush, or actually even transpose tool backface masking. That's being a little weird. I'll use the move brush for now. Start to pull that in, and then probably blend this together. Remesh these together, either through live boolean or Dynamesh, and then start blending that shape even more. I just want to make sure that these edges are a large enough difference between each other so that when we kind of essentially stitch or Dynamesh all these together, that we're actually getting a decent separation there. Because it'd be really easy to smooth out that cut there. Alright, let's move up the chain, and I think this will be our last one up top. Almost ZBrush. I have no idea what this extra edge is. And if I can, let's see, Zmodeler. This is my new favorite Zmodeler feature that I've found recently for stitching vertices. If you just have a random try somewhere after doing a quick Zmodeler or Z-remesher, you can get that out. This surface turn, this is the kind of stuff that's really annoying to me. Like, just the way that that's split instead of being split there. If you see over here, we have a nice quad. It's doing it down here too. It's very annoying. Creates a bad topology flow, but like I said, for this stuff, it's not really important. Not a big deal. And what's really nice is that we have polygroups on all of these meshes, so we'll be able to get those bottom edges and pull those out even more once we get to that phase where we're starting to blend all these shapes together. So that'll make this even easier. Yeah, I think it's smart to only carry this shape up so far. Side effects, welcome back. And welcome to everybody else that's joining us today. Hope your Saturday's going well, guys. These meshes here. I'm going to delete these ones up top. Whoops, I'm duplicating here. Merge. Merge, 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 merge. Delete. There we go. Feels very like armory right now, which is why I mentioned that we would want to blend those in later, so that it feels more more scaly. Let's see, we got 2, 4, 6 more of these. I should. So now that these aren't welded anymore, might be able to do a few of these at the same time. Let's see. Remesh, Edgeloop, group loops. Please don't crash. Auto group. Did group loops merge all these? Huh, that's funny. Group loops apparently will weld vertices. I guess that makes sense since it's going through the edges and cleaning up all that jaggedness. I assume like part of that algorithm has some kind of welding going on. It's a little annoying for what we're going to be doing here though. I don't know if I need keep groups on for these. I don't think it will matter. Yeah, it'll still split them. But you see that we're getting these jagged edges because I'm not able to polish these. Let's see, Edgeloop, can I? Yeah, I was gonna try to do a few of these at the same time. Okay. Okay, let's see if it'll play nice now. This should be on 0.5 anyway, if anything. That's more of what I was trying to do. And then from there, I'm sure some of these are extruded strangely with some tries somewhere, but I'll find them later. I'm not too worried about it. It's a weird edge going on here. I wonder if I can delete that without losing too much of that form. Yeah, I think so. Alright, and now let's overlay some of these. There's like a weird inflation going on here. You guys see that? Not sure why it zero-meshed that way, but let's get the rest of these overlaying properly. Let's just merge all together. And now let's start working on how these are overlaying here. And I'll probably start to pull these up a little bit higher than we need so that we get some really good thickness here, really good separation between the edges. It'll be a little bit easier to do that once I add thickness though. So let's just get all these overlapping each other nicely. So there are a lot of ways to go about doing something like this. We started off by creating a brush that we could essentially project onto the surface, so we could project the geometry that we wanted for an IMM brush. But then each one would look exactly the same, and then we'd have to go through and manipulate. So the way that I did it, it's a little more organic because the shape that I'm cutting from is the surface. So it's going to match really nicely in that regard, and then on top of that, just because I'm cutting them by hand, we're getting some nice variation between the shapes right out of the gate, and then we can go through and start to manipulate these shapes even more to try to get more variation out of them. And probably do some asymmetry and play with them even more. Right now it's just easier to keep them symmetrical so that I can pull out and get the basic transformation of the form. It's getting a little stretched through here. We'll just leave it for now. And for this bottom one, I am going to delete some edge loops here, because I would like to clean up this edge, just see how kind of crazy it is. I might do these for a few more of these, but if I delete this, it's going to freak out and delete this way too, just because we have this awkward turning of the edge. That's why we like to keep our topology nice and clean, so that we can control our shapes. Alright. And this edge here is pushed out really far. Alright, so there's our block out for our scales. So from here, what we want to do is start making this separation a lot more thick. So there's a few ways we can do this. Probably just going to start with a move back face on all of this. Start pulling these edges down, making sure that we're not having any gaps. Thicken these up. And then that goes both ways, so I can mask this side and just pull up here. I'm just using a really big move brush with back face masking on. If you don't know where back face masking on, it's just in your brush menu under auto masking down here, back face mask. And I just have that in my quick menu, a little bit easier to pull that up. So I'm just starting to really get a nice separation here. It's really easy to tell that they're separated right now because they're actually, separate meshes. But if I start to dynamesh or boolean these together, it's not going to be quite the same. Getting some really nice separations. I want it to be to the point where it's going to affect the silhouette. And we're getting some bubble out around some of these edges, so I'll probably end up deleting some edge loops as well. That will be very easy to do. So now we're starting to get some actual silhouette hits there, which is what I'm looking for right now. Make a big enough of a difference. And we'll also start messing with our little stand down here. I want to change some of the shapes that we got going on the bottom portion of that. And possibly make the footprint a little bit bigger, because my main concern is that something physical like this might tip over just because of the nature of it being so top heavy. So that's something we definitely want to avoid. Alright, give me my Zmodeler brush. And deleting edge loops on a lot of these meshes is going to be problematic, so we'll start to lose a lot of this form. So I'm going to be a little conservative here, try to be careful. I think some of these are working okay. Let's see. And this is just a little tougher because our topology isn't great. One of the benefits of Zmodeler, right? Or ZRemesher. ZRemesher is very quick, but it is auto topology. So unfortunately it's not extremely clean, although it is low poly. It just gives us something that we can work with though. And I'm okay with a little bit of the roughness in the surface, as long as it's not too crazy. Alright, there we go. So we're starting to get those hits in the silhouette, like I was saying. So it's actually affecting the outer silhouette. And we could even exaggerate that more. I don't know how far we can push that before it starts really breaking, but doesn't hurt to play with it a little bit more. And then just in terms of the, and just different shapes we got going on here. Let's see. And that edge is lining up pretty nicely, so I'm pretty happy with that. This is something I wanted to kind of blend out a while ago, so I think I'm going to do that now. Alright, so I'm gonna hold off on dynameshing any of these scales into the actual body of our dragon, just in case we want to change anything here on the curve. It's gonna be a lot easier to do that at this stage. So let's take a look here at our fleshy portion. Come through here and we can start just refining a lot of this. And I mentioned that clay tubes is really good at starting to build up some of that fleshy texture. It's really easy to go overboard with it though, so I recommend dropping your Z intensity to around like 15 or 20. Let's see. Lazy Mouse. Lazy Mouse has this weird error where you'll be creating your stroke with it, it'll lag for a second, and then just pull a really hard stroke across your mesh completely out of nowhere. Very annoying. It's pretty much always done that, and I can never replicate it. I know we're getting some like weird stretching and stuff going on through some of this. That's okay. It'll all come out later. Right now I'm just trying to break up the symmetry plane here a little bit. I'll also, since we have lower subdivs, I think right now would be probably one of the better times to start doing some of those bigger moves that we mentioned. Problem is, our lowest subdiv here is actually still pretty high poly at 24K. So I just want to make sure that I'm not making a change to the surface and getting this unnecessarily complex curve going on. I need that to be, you know, relatively simple and cleaned up. And I would like to get maybe a little bit of a S-curve or asim going on for the entire dragon, just so from the front view it's not so static. Right now it feels very parallel. I want to avoid that, so we'll look at doing that as well. Let's try dropping down here. And this is going to be pretty minor. But I want to, actually here, better idea. Let's go into T-pose. Transpose, we can move these at the same time. I was going to move them separately, but it doesn't make sense to do that. Let's make sure we're not moving our eyes, our teeth, or our hard surface stand down there. And I think we'll be good. Really big move brush. Slight S-curve coming in through the body. And I don't have perspective on, so I can look at this orthographically just to see how much surface change we're actually getting into play here. And we can even really start to, whoops, make sure backface masking is off, really start to play with this and start to get some actual curve or some twist in here. Let's see. We really want to avoid how parallel that was starting to feel. Get a little bit more rotation here. And we still need to close up our mouth and everything, but that's really simple to do, to just match this angle over here and start masking to be able to close that off. Alright, so with perspective on here, it's definitely feeling a lot better. Let's try pushing the twist a little bit further. I don't want it to... Now we're gonna run into issues with top heaviness towards the side. Our main issue with it being top heavy was just towards the front, so that it might tip over this way. I had to make some pretty strong changes to get this curve to not be coming straight down from the neck, but rather curve in a lot harder and come in more towards the center of the character's weight, which is somewhere around here roughly. So having that even a little bit more forward is probably for the best. Alright, so that's definitely feeling a lot better. Let's stick with that for now. Make sure our scales are lined up here still. We can play with asymmetry for those too. Let's head on back to T-pose. Nice cold tea. All right, well, let's look at how we would start to merge in some of these scales. If we want to add, not a huge fan of the default noise in ZBrush, just like the standard, it's kind of like a purlin noise effect. Let's see here. Kind of rough. But up here in the noise plug, you have a few different patterns that you could play around with. I kind of, for something like this, I was thinking maybe something along erosion, mix basic noise 0, please. And then for this, plug in scale. And I found in the past that once you apply it to your mesh, it tends to be a little bit weaker than what you see in the preview there. So I would say apply that a little bit harder than what you want. Let's mess with that a little bit more in a bit. Studio Kimbla, thanks for the host. I appreciate it. How are you doing? Let's see. And I might do a little bit of that noise, but if anything, I'll end up knocking a lot of that back. Or doing some combination of multiple noise effects. If you're gonna use an alpha, if you're gonna use a noise generator, or really anything that's like a stamp of some kind, you're always going to need to go back through and kind of get some of that human touch on there. I think the noise generated in here is a little bit more in need of some of that human touch afterward. So if you are going to use that, don't just use like some default noise by itself. It typically doesn't look super great. Same with a lot of the default alphas and stuff in ZBrush for like skin textures or anything like that. Typically need a human hand in there at some point. Alright. So I'm going to soften this edge that we created here. And we're getting a little bit of like these awkward cuts where some of this topology is really terrible, but if anything, that's like some extra, you know, asymmetry or texture that we can get on here. We can add even more of that. There's some nice orb brushes that we can play with to get some additional like little hits in the surface. Go up our subdivs. Play with those a little bit more. I'm gonna wait to do that though. Is there a way of only doing it on a portion of the mesh? For example, making the lower edges of the scale jagged? Yes, you would have to mask it off, or have a poly group already set up to where you could mask just that lower edge. For instance, up on these pieces of geometry, I have this edge poly grouped already, so that makes masking that very simple. But if I wanted to, I could just step all the way down and then start, you know, making my quick little selections with my mask brush, mask lasso, selection tools, whatever you got. So just mask off what you don't want to affect with your noise, and keep everything else unmasked. Alright. gonna start making these feel a lot more at home here. And I might keep these split for now for a little bit longer. Kind of want to merge them though, or at least merge the top few. That top mesh needs to blend a bit nicer up here. And honestly, that might be all it takes for now. Alright, let's do a Dynamesh on here. I can't remember what resolution this was at, so we'll just do like an 800 or so. And I'm sure that's plenty, yeah, four or so. So I just wanted to Dynamesh these in here so we can start blending some of this. That top edge. And if the color is throwing us off here a little bit, let's just get a look at this all together. I probably want to do something with this inner edge here. I don't know. This feels like really strong kind of shadowing going on. Got a few gaps in here. Alright. Let's also take a look down here with our Zmodeler. I want to make this a little bit shorter. First off, just do anything I can to stay away from being incredibly top heavy, and let's give us like a wide enough footprint to where we're not getting into topple territory. And then I want to replicate the shapes that are going on up here onto this bottom edge. So let's do that next. Anytime you're doing an operation in Zmodeler with symmetry on, you want to be careful when you're working with edge loops. If I were to like bevel this edge right now and I had symmetry on across the x-axis, it's also trying to bevel it at the same time on the exact same edge on the opposite side. And I've had ZBrush crash many times with Zmodeler. Since 2018.1, it's been a lot better, but it still happens on occasion, so I would just watch out for it. Just make sure that you're if you're doing edge loop functions that would go across the symmetrical plane, I think it's better to just turn off symmetry. It should still be a symmetrical action, so like if I bevel this, it's still going around that entire edge. You shouldn't have any problems. So I'm trying to replicate this top shape so that we can get this nice, cool, sharp bevel there. And let's scale that out. Oh my god, ZBrush, you are so annoying. Zmodeler brush is so frustrating to work with sometimes. So I'm trying to replicate that same shape language that's going on here, but at the same time, I want it to taper out. I'm gonna delete this. Kind of hard to see. Let's move our light around. Alright, I'll say that's close enough. If anything, I would just like make that wider so that it matches the width up there fairly well. Yeah, there we go. A good friend of mine is a ceramicist, and like creating an edge like this would be, I feel like, so hard for spinning. But in digital, it's just like, look how easy it is to make this shape. But then the process from going from clay to, you know, firing that and then having that object is a lot faster than 3D printing and then making a mold and then getting it into an actual material that's workable. But actually, you can print with clay in FDM so that you can have a buck to sculpt on. It's pretty cool. I've never gotten to print with that specific clay material, but I think that would be a lot of fun to play with at some point in the future. FDM in general, you can actually print in some pretty unique materials. Like you can actually print some stuff in wood. I don't know exactly what the mixture is, but it's pretty cool. Alright, so let's take a look here. How much do I want this sticking out? I think I'm okay with that. I kind of want to play with the interaction that's happening in this area. Like, exactly how this is going to fit up into here, and what this silhouetted shape is going to look like for our dragon. So like, should we pull down on this, or do we like the kind of hard cut there? I kind of like it right now, but it's very, it's very messy. We definitely need to clean this up and get this to be like a really tight, clean, beveled edge. I'd like to do that. I don't like to leave stuff so junky. So actually, I have an idea. So we can actually, to get that really clean edge that I was just talking about, we can make this a flat surface down here and then bevel out this negative shape, and that should give us an extremely clean cut through there. And that's probably how I'll end up doing that, to get an extremely clean surface. Just use some kind of live Boolean subtraction. So you can get some really cool stuff with live Boolean. So we'll probably do that later. A fixie. Oh, I'm getting some skipped frames here. Hopefully it's not too laggy on you guys' end. Making a lizard dragon thingy or something else. Yes, it is similar. It's kind of like a chess piece. It's just kind of a popular style for doing busts for this kind of creature. I've seen a lot of very similar things. Just so that if this was physical, if this was a print, or anything else, if it was just what we had originally, which was this shape with the head going to the neck, and then we just cut that off. If you wanted to 3D print that, that'd be like cool to hold and look at, but you could never display it. So this is just sculpted in such a way so that you could actually display it somewhere. Love your UI colors. I need to tweak mine. Well, thanks, man. Alright. Come here, lizard dragon thing. Turn off all that. Problem with some of this for 3D printing is how thin these edges get down here, which is never good for printing or just production in general. Trying to replicate that shape now. Well, it's actually the same shape that we're looking at, just a lot more thin. I'm going to thicken this up. Whoa. That's not what we want. There we go. Alright, so let's see what this is looking like once it's all smoothed out. like that. I like that a lot more than what we had before. The only thing I don't like is maybe the extra crease through there, flowing up to the top here. Yeah, I think I prefer just having that be smooth. And then maybe even for this top edge, getting rid of that crease. Thanks for the follow there, Fixie, or Fix. Appreciate it. Let's see. You've been eyeing 3D printing, but wanting to get a DSLR as well. Ooh. To take pictures of whatever texture you need. Yeah. Very rare that I spot a texture out in the wild that I'm like, ooh, give me that. I don't get outside much. That's not completely true, but pretty close. The magic button. Ooh. Yes, the secret easy button. It's my favorite UI option in ZBrush. Not many people know about it. I'm gonna get a little warbly in the surface through here, so let's see. Still want to keep a nice clean silhouette. Feeling a little bit better to me. Starting to get a little dangerously close to connecting here. And that would be bad for Dynamesh. Even if they're close enough to each other, not necessarily touching, Dynamesh could merge those together without me realizing it. So I want to keep an eye on that, and maybe even like pull down through here a little bit. I don't know. Just to preemptively avoid some of that freaking out on us. Let's see. One of the angles, he looks like a dragon chicken. Let's see here. Yes, you can. You can turn on the Keep Groups option for Dynamesh. Kind of similar to what I do a lot with ZRemesh. That'll keep like if you have fingers or something that are really close to each other that you're having trouble Dynameshing, getting those to stick together. If you don't want them to stick together, you can turn that on. As long as, of course, you have groups set up there. Trying to turn that surface a little bit faster through there. Try to build up a little more volume. There we go. The few areas that have these internal silhouette lines that are kind of all over the place right now. It's really hard to actually work on this when it's so tight in there. Yes, there is a kind of a projection distance that you can work with for almost all of those options. Whoops. Here. So sub-projection, or maybe it's not sub-projection. Similar to in project, that might be it, I can't remember. But you can mess with your projection distance if you're working with going from a sub-D mesh or from a Dynamesh mesh. crappy topology to something with clean topology. Low sub-D or something like that. Starting to clean up these curves a little bit more that we got rocking. But like I said, a lot of these internal silhouette lines are kind of junky right now. Just need a little TLC. Alright. Probably either remesh this so that we can start working on the neck and start working on this area down here. I'll show you guys what I was talking about for the Boolean down here. So I want to pull this edge out, get this feeling flat, and obviously just make it a lot more thick. It'll be good to do this while we're still in Dynamesh here. I'll try to actually just pull this out a little bit more flat to the surface. And that gets really grody through there, but that's okay. So I'm going to take this mesh here, and you know what? Just so this is all going to be the same, I'll probably plane that out in there. But let's start making this mesh real quick. Let's just start with a cylinder, or better yet, now we'll just do this. was going to use the stand that I already had down here, but it's fine. So we're going to use this cylinder now to negatively subtract all of this garbage in here that we don't need. You know what? I'll crease this side as well. Try to get a little bit of an interesting shape. And I'm going to turn this edge on here, this planar edge, going in to subduct in, because right now I don't want to be able to see this edge too much. I want it to be like, I want this edge here, this outside edge, to be the furthest down point that you can see. I don't want you to be able to see the geometry that's like tucking up inside of him. So, how do I want to do that? What's the best way to turn that edge? I'm just going to make a quick selection here. Alright. So give me all this, polygroup it, mask it, soften that mask ever so slightly. Most of this doesn't matter, most of this geometry in there does not matter at all. I'm just going to do this. Scale that in really sharply, and probably even more than that. And then push that up really far. And this is tapering pretty harshly. And what I mean by that is that we're getting very thin down in there. Maybe too thin. I don't know. Let's try dynameshing this. Dynamesh our chicken boy. Hopefully don't get an exploded mesh there. Whenever you're pulling geometry really harsh like this, you can get some mesh explosions when dynameshing, which is never fun. If you have that happening, typically you need to lower your resolution. Or if you have multiple subtools, if you try to like merge like I don't know, like 10 subtools at once and then try to Dynamesh them all, sometimes you'll get an exploded from something like that. What we're going to end up doing though is setting this to live Boolean, so it cuts out that entire shape. Up there it won't matter, we'll flatten that out. But then it'll start to give us a really clean edge through here, and we can start working on this and cleaning this up even more. It will be much easier to do that once I have subdivs. So I will wait to clean up this surface. This stuff though, like this doesn't matter. Alright, let's take a look here. Now that we at least have that set up to subtract for later. Let's see how everything's looking. I think the thing, really our main focus from here, I'm pretty happy with the stand. I like this a lot, at least for now. That might change. But some of the stuff that I really want to focus on is just starting to really define this neck a little bit better, get that into a nicer place. From there, probably do the face a little bit more, maybe start to get some additional secondary forms in there. Obviously, we're going to close up the mouth, but I don't want to close up the mouth until I'm really happy with the rest of this form here, because once we do that, I won't be able to Dynamesh, or I actually could technically close off the mouth and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. It's just a little bit easier to keep it open for now, so we will. But yes, let's work on the neck a little bit, then jump up to the face, and maybe back to the scales again. Ati, is this another Ben possibly? Ben Ati? I don't know. Are you streaming on YouTube as well? No, I am not, because now that I'm a Twitch affiliate, I can only stream here on Twitch. Twitch has, for affiliates and partners, if you are streaming on their service, they have like a 24-hour, what would you call it? I guess priority, to where their content can't appear on any other service for that length of time. Yes, Twitch is freezing. I don't know if it's on your end. I had skipped frames 20 minutes ago. That's the only error I got. It looks like it's totally fine right now, though. I know, Hannibal, you've had problems with Twitch in the past. Galaxy Note 9. I have the Galaxy Note 5. I'm a little behind the curve. This phone is a big old turd. Alright, come on ZBrush, do it. We got like 2 seconds left, come on. Alright, so we got this. I think that should be fine. Alright. Let's do a subdivision and projection session. Yay. Some of these will take a little bit longer. These first initial two shouldn't take that long. Let's check our Muzak. What happened here? And if you are experiencing, like I said, I haven't had dropped frames in like 25 minutes now, but if I do get any more, it would be because I'm doing some heavy operation like this. If I check my task manager right now, ZBrush is going ham on these resources. But I'm still getting 4,500 kilobits a second, so that's pretty good. Oh no, why? He's just hanging out up here. Come on, this way, down to the right. Let's not freeze. Just let that sit for a moment. It'll probably be like another 30 seconds. But how's your weekend going, guys? How's your Saturday? Hopefully pretty chill, not super hectic. I'll probably make this the last projection. I won't do another one after this. It's only, I think, 3. Oh, there we go. That was about 30 seconds, probably. Alright, let's clean up this a little bit more now that we got these subdivs. Alright. I'm just stepping up and down while I clean up some of this. And I'm going to use my move brush just to fix where this is getting super out of hand. And I'm going to soften this edge a bit. Having these really tight points, 1, doesn't look super great, and 2, it's not going to print super great either. Alright, so softening that edge, that definitely feels a lot nicer to me. And then let's see with our negative mesh there. I'll probably, in all honesty, if I were to like print this through Shapeways, because God knows Shapeways is expensive as hell, I would probably just hollow this out and hide it up in here. Hide the escape hole. I think that makes the most sense. If you guys are interested in 3D printing, and in particular 3D printing with like full color SLS, I also stream on the Pixelogic ZBrush channel, and I recently did a stream on there. And that's up on Pixelogic ZBrush YouTube channel. And I went through the entire process in real time for a SpongeBob muffin that I had sculpted a while ago. Alright. So, what I'll end up doing later with this is hollowing out the dragon, and then this will be this the shape of the escape hole. And I'm not going to hollow them out right now because the shape is definitely going to change, so I don't want to mess with that quite yet. Just save before and after projection. Yeah, you can definitely crash on projections, that's for sure, and that's never fun. I mean, I have, just on this project alone, we crashed when I tried to use the transpose move on an eyeball. Like, I've crashed on some pretty stupid stuff that's like not resource intensive at all. You're just trying to like use a move brush, and then ZBrush just, either you click something too fast or you're switching around between tools. I don't know. It's kind of random sometimes. Other times I'm like, ah, crap, why did I do that? I should have known better. Kind of like some of the roughness that we're getting in here for the skin. I'm kind of liking that. But I will probably, soften that to some degree. Feeling a little bit better. So this feels like this separation between his like dooflap here, which is what I've been calling it because I can't remember what they're actually called, and dooflap just sounds good to my ears. But a lot of that feels really, really unnatural, very weird, just because I have like a hard line cut in here for this primary shape. And what we would want to do is get a little bit of a additional weight, kind of gravity, and just that form kind of compressing against there. So I don't use the inflate brush too often, but sometimes in places like this it can be helpful. A lot of the time, masking is what I go for, just so I have a little bit more control. And then you can use your inflate brush, or I'm going to try just using my move brush a little bit more here. And let's see. Let's move our light so it's a little bit easier to see underneath the jowl. I recommend in general moving that light around as often as you can. And if you have lots of materials that you sculpt with, that's also nice to swap between those. I pretty much mainly stick with my clay material. I'll switch to the basic material fairly often though. If anything, basic 1, basic 2 are really nice. A little bit harsh on your eyes, I think, though, after a while. And then just in terms of edge quality, another one of those character design fundamentals. What is going on here? Is there... oh, okay. That's weird. Had like a little leftover mask from something. Very strange. In terms of edge quality, you don't want an edge just going up to a point and then just dead stopping. You definitely want to fade those out a little bit more organically. Unless, of course, it is a hard surface model. In that case, then you can probably get away with that a lot more often. Alright. Starting to refine that a little bit more. Still a lot of awkward shadows going on through there. I'm really trying to like take this back to a little bit more of a cleaner stage so that we can really focus in here and make sure that these shapes are flowing nicely. Like I said, I do like a lot of the kind of, I don't know what you would modeled? What's the word that would describe that kind of rough skin texture that you start to get? Not molted. Modeled? Modeled. Maybe it's just modeled. Can't remember. It's not important. This kind of thing. We don't want a lot of those individual strokes, though, showing up through the final mesh. Really hard to kind of see up in there, isn't it? Sometimes looking at your negative surface can help. Alright, that's starting to feel a little bit better to me. I was thinking that maybe we could somehow just like close off a lot of the junk going on through there. And that would actually help with stability a lot for this. But I don't know, I kind of like the sweep in and around that we're getting there. It's kind of a cool shape. It creates a really, really interesting, unique internal negative, just a negative silhouette, I guess, in there. I'm a fan. So let's try to keep that in there. Some of this maybe is just too thin to work with right now. Alright, let's take a minute away from our neck and get back on up to our face. See what all we got going on up here. In terms of additional secondary forms, I would like to get some more of these kind of shapes up here that I started to sculpt earlier during our last stream. Those were kind of fun to put in there. We can get some more of this kind of stuff. And I kind of want to change the nose, but I don't know if we'll do that right now. I think it'll feel better to me once the mouth is closed up. It just feels a little awkward right now. And we need more polygons, Captain. Not enough going on through here. And then I've opted not to merge down my eyelids for this very specific reason, so that I knew as I started to sculpt around this area, that would just get really, really hard to work with. And it kind of, even though they are split right now, it still is kind of tough to work with. I'm going to leave that a little bit hard right now. And let's just try to get some more secondary shapes in here. Let's see. From our reference, really there's not there's not a ton of information in this sketch. So I'm trying to infer what I can from here. Let's see here. Wonder. Let's see. Let's apply a quick toy plastic to these eyes. And just a, oh, you know what, our pupil, I remember what we wanted to do with the eyes. I wanted to do like a little, I don't really know what I guess like a diamond shape. It's kind of that like slit shape that you would see, alligator eye or crocodile, they're kind of the same. Yeah, this like slit shape here. So I could paint that in. I would prefer... Let's just leave that for now. Bleh. Alright. Let's get back to our clay material. For the most part, I'm happy with a lot of the main shapes going on down here. It is a little messy, but I think I'm going to leave that and maybe clean that up more later. I don't know, in terms of like additional shapes that I'm seeing happening, it's like maybe some internal line here with indicating some kind of plane change with like some kind of pinch in here or something, which is kind of cool, and we can mess with that a little bit more and maybe try to do some more of these, because it looks like maybe there's some more, I don't know, they're like sketcherly, it's kind of sketched in there really quick, so I'm not entirely sure what they were trying to indicate with some of these. I don't know, we'll experiment with some of these shapes and see if we can come up with some cool secondary forms in here. What happened with the mummy chick? I don't see it on your art station. It is not on my art station. She is not finished yet. Yes, if you've been following along with the past few streams, we've been doing some style studies on some stylized character faces. And then we were working on a Jon Snow face. That was, I think, the last one that we did. We did a White Walker version of him as well. And then at the end of October, we were working on a mummy. And I've taken a break from that project to work on some other stuff here. I don't know when we'll return to that one. Let's just start blocking out some more of these shapes. I'm doing these pretty rough. Come back through with like a pinch and some other stuff. Just start defining these a little bit more. Probably some clay buildup or trim around these shapes to help define them even more. So it doesn't feel too much like just a straight cut into the surface. Let's go back to the other side a little bit. I kind of just want to mess up this surface a little bit, texture it, but I think getting some of these larger shape changes here first will be a better idea. Being a little bit more leggy than I want. Pro, what's going on? How's your weekend going, man? I follow, but I'm always behind. No problem, man. You stream when I start work, so it's hard to watch in real time. I understand. When I was starting out, I was trying to stream at a bunch of different times, just because I know there are people from all over that work at different times of the day. It's just hard for me to do that with my schedule, to just, you know, stream at a different time every single day. So now it's a little bit more consistent. I stream at noon EST every day, except for Sunday. And I stream on Tuesdays at noon EST, as well as at 6 p.m. EST on the Pixelogic ZBrush channel. So keep it a little bit more consistent now. But I know that means that for some people that they work at that time. Alright, so we're starting to get some additional form in here, starting to build some of this up. I just want to texture this a little bit. Maybe to feel a little bit more bony. I haven't really decided entirely what we're going to do here. But we'll just play around in the polys until we find something that we like. And these strokes are like very slow. Do you see that? Like trail behind lag? Oh, well, I guess you can't, because you can't see. You can see the plus sign where my pen is and where that red line is. It's just being like really laggy. I'm gonna go open up my Doa because it's starting to get a little warm in here. It's like freaking 20 degrees out this morning. Way too cold. 20 degrees freedom units, that is. Nice stylized monster. Weekend's good so far. How are you? I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. This is not my style. This is not my 2D concept. This is a sketch by, I don't have them pulled up right now. I've mentioned them every other stream, so I feel bad for not doing so yet. Gosh, if anybody, let me see. I do have it, yes. And I'll keep it open over here. So this is a 2D concept by Taylor Fisher. You can look them up on ArtStation. Definitely go check them out. They got some other cool stuff here. But I had saved this image so long ago that I forgot where I got it. And then I think Engine found it while I was streaming for me. So props to him for the good find. Detective Engine. But yes, go follow Taylor over on ArtStation. That's some great stuff. In particular, if you're looking to make a dragon or something, they got some other really cool designs. I was deciding between the bottom one here and this one. I couldn't decide, so I just kind of flipped a coin. I do like this one a lot, though. This one's very cool. I'm somewhat trying to get to a point where we're a little bit kind of like what's going on back here, as if there's some kind of buildup on the surface, but I don't know, maybe that doesn't work super well for these horizontal lines. I don't know. At least getting some texture in here isn't a terrible idea. Very rough right now. Plus, we don't have symmetry anymore, so we can't save time in that way. It's good to break symmetry, though. Keep things looking, in my opinion, a lot more natural. Let's go to our... Let's see here. Yes, he definitely does have some great designs. Trying to get that to flow a little bit nicer through there. And I just like the clay tubes brush in general. You can use it on so much. Even if it's just like quickly breaking up your surface a little bit, like you can knock some of that back and still have some really nice kind of secondary forms through there, like really fine kind of. I was talking about this on the skin texture for the neck. If you want to soften that out, you can start to get some of that. I couldn't remember the word before, and I'm not going to remember it now, like mottled. I think it's M-O-T-T-L-E-D. It auto-completed it for me. Isn't it just bumpy? Wow, that's not something I wanted to see. Great. Well, that's on there now. But a little bit of just breaking up on the surface. Maybe not to that degree, but maybe I'm just using that word wrong. Get some surface texture, or at least start blocking some of it out. And it helps me to come through here with my trim brush as well, which I'm just kind of jumping back between those. Fade out some of this stuff. Let's see here. So I don't know, I kind of want this to feel a little bit hard surfacey through here. I don't know. At least to me, this area of the mouth, this all just feels very bony. At least that's the feel I'm getting from the sketch. There's like a lot of these hard angles and straight lines. And that's kind of the feel that I get, so we probably don't want to overdo this kind of texture too much. Like I don't want it to feel the same as the neck. That's essentially what I'm saying. But I do want to get some surface texture in here. I'm going to hide the rest of that neck just to maybe help reduce lag a little bit more. Make this go a little bit faster. Because even just like yeah, oh my gosh, that's a million times better. Even just like a little bit of lag, I mean, over a long period of time, that's going to make that a lot slower. Let's see. He did a Jord portrait. I did a stylized version of the same character. Jord or Ford? Let's see. Would it be Jord? Jord the F is silent? I don't know this character. At least not off the top of my head. From Critical Role? Ah, I see. I've only listened to a very little bit of the first arc of the first season of Critical Role. I'm a huge fan of the Adventure Zone, though. And just the Mackle Boys in general. Yeah, you can go ahead. You can indeed share a link. And this is the one that you did, I believe is what you said there. Yes, did this one. By Pro. I was going to say Pro 420, 4210. Zoom out a little bit. Is he a goblin or elf, maybe? I'm seeing the pointed ears. Based on... Oh, you did a few different expressions here as well, it looks like. What kind of race is he? And I'm assuming this is from the new season. I'm not positive. He's fun, though. Based on the color of skin, I can... Alright, I guess it is D&D, right? Can you play as a goblin in D&D? Gnome? I don't think goblin is a race that you can choose, right? It's been a minute since I've dungeoned. So I'm just trying to break up this surface a little bit more. We're getting closer to where I wanted it to be. Half orc. Orc. That's what it is, not goblin. Yes, from the second season. Ah, you can play as a goblin though. Yes, the main reason I don't listen to Critical Role is because they post their videos on YouTube and they don't put them on iTunes or any kind of podcasting app where I can listen to them conveniently. Typically the only time I get the chance to, it's not really the type of thing that I would want to watch, but I would be more than happy to just listen to it. And I don't really have the ability, I don't have, what's it called, YouTube Red, which allows you to lock your screen while listening to YouTube videos. YouTube just launched a, what's it called, YouTube Music. I can only imagine that's not doing super well. Alright. Some of this is getting a little wonky. Just getting some of that roughed up in there makes that feel a little bit better to me. Let's see here. We got a lot we can do on this guy. I'm wondering if we do want to merge down our scales right now or wait on that. I'm trying to think if there's any reason why I wouldn't want to merge down my scales other than having to do another remesh a little bit later. So I think we'll just hold off on the scales. I do want to start getting some secondary forms and stuff on these, but I guess we can wait a little bit. They aren't going anywhere. The Geek and Sundry site has the podcast. Let's see. So they are doing season 2, it looks like, as podcast content. I don't think the first season, all of it was on there. Or was it was only like the later episodes or something? I can't remember. It was something to where I couldn't download it on my podcast app. I will definitely check it out though, since they did a new season. Looks like there's 40 episodes. I could knock that out in a weekend. Probably not. Oh my gosh. I'm a podcast fanatic though. There's not too many, in my opinion, too many good role-playing podcasts that I enjoy. But I did enjoy what I did listen to of the beginning of the Critical Role podcast. So I'm sure they've only gotten better by now. There's one called God's Fall as well. I tried it. I'm just not a huge fan I've got too many other podcasts that I gotta listen to. Yes, 4 hours per episode. It's quite a bit. Hey, pretty much 4 hours per stream here. Except on the weekends, we'll probably not do quite that much. But for the most part, I pretty much stream for like an average of 4 hours each time, every day. I would much prefer an edited down version of that kind of content where anything where they're looking up rules or stuff, like anything like that. I don't know if they edit that out for the podcast version, but that's always nice. Alright, continuing to break up this surface even more. And I haven't really decided what I'm going to do for this entire area. Probably just keep that relatively flat, and whatever texture we do for the scales, we can kind of, I think, follow that through up top. I was playing around with the noisemaker. Really, oh, come back. Select that. Come on. I was playing around with the noisemaker a little bit with the erosion noise modifier applied on there, just to start getting some kind of base texture on there. Apply that. I think maybe if we do something like this here. If I do something like this, I'd probably want... Oh, it's getting a little weird. Let's see here. I'm just trying to get a little extra form in there. I'm not a huge fan of that noise. The noise generator in general, other than when using it with UVs. So you can get some really nice clean stuff with it that's super fun to play around with. So maybe we'll do something else with that, I don't know. Like I said, I haven't decided on the texture for our scales, or at least for the harder portion of this. I'm trying to get this to turn. Let's see. Let me save this out really fast. And I want to open up the original. Oh, I might not have the first one here. So if you have not been following along with the process, this is essentially where we started after our first stream. That's up on my YouTube channel now. We just started with a sphere and got up to this. So if you guys are interested in watching this entire process from the beginning, you can check that out there. From there, we started playing around with, thinking about if we wanted to print this, we definitely need to give it some kind of base and try to find an intelligent way to get that base attached there. So that's when we started wrapping this neck around. And now we're kind of getting into that point where we're starting to make all of this feel a little bit more at home. I mean, just the jump between those two, in my opinion, is pretty significant. Starting to make this footprint feel a little bit larger, so, you know, it doesn't feel super top heavy. Get some scales on here, get some of these secondary forms, get some asim, lots of good stuff. So we definitely, and we changed the base quite a bit there as well. So we've got a lot of new stuff going on here. And I think the next thing I want to figure out, maybe something with doing some texturing on the scales and starting to blend those down and play with that a little bit more. I think it would be cool to break up the silhouette even more. So I started to do this a little bit where we're getting like this stair-stepping effect, right? It's very exaggerated, but getting this stair-stepping through here. I think pushing that a little bit farther, which is also another reason why I've kept these separated, just in case we want to make any kind of big form change. It's a lot easier for us to do that with these not dynameshed or booleaned in. I think just around the eyes in general, a lot of this is starting to feel a lot better. And we'll probably work more on that in our next stream. But yeah, I think the only other thing I'll show here real quick is my Gumroad, which there's a link down below for. It's just gumroad.com/Follygon. If you have no idea what's going on and you're interested in learning about digital sculpting or just high resolution 3D modeling, I have my How to ZBrush Supercut, which is like a quick start course for people that are completely new to ZBrush. I also have some stuff for intermediate and more advanced courses as well as some like brushes, base meshes, mannequins, and some other good stuff on there for you guys. Other than that, again, definitely check out Tyler Fisher's work over on ArtStation. And I think the only other thing I'm going to do here, make sure we don't have any other questions that I can answer real quick. Is there a way to get an idea whether something will topple or stay upright before printing? You could simulate gravity in something else in another program. You can't do that in ZBrush, but I don't know. Just from experience with 3D printing, also it depends on the material and weight of the object. This is still pretty top heavy. I would probably make the footprint a little bit larger. I think it's fine. I think it'll be a little bit top heavy to where it could, you know, if you tapped it with enough force, it would definitely tip over. But you can at least find your geometric center point with your transpose tool and draw a line up through that object just to figure out where your center point is if you're having trouble with that, which for us, oh my gosh, come back, which for us is about like somewhere right here. So I might want to shift the base back a little bit more. I think it's kind of fine. I'll probably widen out that footprint, but at least in ZBrush, there is no physical way. There's no like simulative way that you can figure that out. And let's see. You could simulate it in that essentially something like that, or not just Maya, but anything else that you can find, any other full-fledged 3D program. But I think at the end here, we're gonna find a quick sculptor online, which is always, it's always so hard for me to find a sculptor to raid here at the end of the streams. But I do want to say thank you for coming and hanging out, guys. I appreciate it. Hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. I stream, ooh, here we go. I found a Blender sculptor. I've never sculpted in Blender. I don't know if you guys have. I'd like to try that at some point, just to play around with the tools. But I stream every day, except for Sunday, except for tomorrow, on noon EST, and then I stream on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. on the Pixelogic ZBrush channel, the creators of this software, if you are unfamiliar. Let me check here. So we're gonna do a quick raidy-do on somebody, and I am gonna go grab some lunch. I'm starving. But thank you again for coming and hanging out, guys, and I hope to see you on Monday in my next stream. You guys have a great weekend, and it's raid time. All right, see you guys.